Right. Great. Thank you, Amanda. Thanks, everybody, for your patience. Brandon, I'm going to come to you in just a moment, okay?
Sounds good.
Thanks. Welcome, everybody, to our committee for Arpa funding, and I'm going to jump right into it with the committee's blessing and go to our representative from the National Association of Counties, Brandon Natsuhara. Hope I'm not messing that up too badly, to talk to us today about the mental health toolkit that Supervisor Sieber had mentioned to us at our last meeting. So I'm hoping you can give us a brief update, or not an update, but an overview, or dive into it, I guess, a little bit more than Supervisor Sieber did at our last meeting, to tell us what this can provide to us at the county for our employees.
Yeah, I would be happy to, and just want to give my thanks to Supervisor Sieber and the committee for allowing me to provide this overview of the mental health first aid. I do have a quick 5-slide PowerPoint to share, so we'll be sharing my screen here. Just let me know when you can see the NACO logo.
Yep, we can see it.
Perfect. So as you all are aware, NACO, of course, provides the legislative advocacy efforts and really tries to align our mission and priorities, with the legislative needs of our members across the country, all 3,069 counties. What we also do is provide solutions to really try to combat, the county challenges that our members are hearing. So, of course, the talent acquisition retention issue, the issue of the Great Resignation, the Silver Tsunami, however you frame it, we're really trying to focus on solutions to mitigate, concerns over workplace acquisition and retention. And really, this is why we've kind of formed this partnership with the National Council. And to kind of paint a further picture, we've also been tracking some stats. Nearly 1 in 5 adults are going to be really posed with a mental illness in their lifetime. And then, when you look at a whole population, 50% of us will actually deal with a mental illness, throughout our entire lifespan journey. So really, this solution is timely, and we hope that, it can really have that widespread impact that we're all looking for. Just ticking on here, this kind of just hits on the high level objectives of the program itself and the toolkit. Essentially, it's to really equip the workplace with the necessary skills and knowledge to really try to combat and handle, this mental health stigma that we're all really, dealing with in our own ways, both, professionally and personally. We need to be equipped with these necessary skills. So you can almost see this mental health first aid at work program very similar to how a first aid or CPR course is taught. But of course, the context is a little different. These are instructor led for our courses of a cohort around 25 to 35 learners. These learnings can also be very targeted in nature by being, maybe in a youth specific course, first responder, EMS, or even a higher education setting. But of course, with the National Council delivering this service, they'll really cater and customize the curriculum to your needs to really make the most of that 4-hour course. This is not a certification. This is a certificate of completion type of course to really focus on, building empathy, situational awareness around mental well-being, and just a knowledge of available resources. Just ticking on here, here are some of the benefits that are listed in the program. These are actually taken from the feedback of past learners. So as you can see, there are just high marks in terms of the level of, positive feedback we've been seeing in terms of the overall confidence level that our learners feel that they're able to now recognize the signs of mental illness. And I certainly won't read it, but I will provide this deck following this conversation. Continuing to show the workplace impact, as you can see here, just from before these learners go through the course till after, you can see just a shift in their confidence level on how to handle these types of conversations, potentially with their peers or even at home, in their personal life. What we've been hearing is this growing drumbeat just in the wake of COVID-19 and, just the stress related to it, that these skills are necessary for these types of conversations. And we all know that they're extremely tough to have, but hopefully this course will be able to really mitigate, all the signs and all the conversations that we've been hearing really head on. Again, ticking through, this comes back to the price of the mental health first aid course. So like I said, this is by cohort. And so the price differs by, if it's offered through a virtual setting or in person or even a hybrid model. The National Council would really, how this is scoped out is the National Council will have a conversation on how many enrollees you would like to go through the training. From there, they're able to really apply, volume discounts if applicable, as well as, of course, with Warren County's membership with NACO, it's automatically a 3% discount applied to that bottom line. And also just to share a little bit of insight into other counties that have really are, currently in conversation with this course. We've actually confirmed a case with Douglas County, Nebraska to push all 2,300 of their employees through this training. Of course, as you might imagine, a rollout of that large of a workforce is going to require some rollout plans and some implementation to really thoughtfully put these folks through, just based off of the demand of, their workforce and of this really of the capacity of the National Council. So we'll be happy to provide all those insights. Generally, we've been seeing trainings being offered through one cohort or two cohorts per week. But again, the National Council and NACO will be happy to work with the Warren County team to understand, what that scale is and the scope that you're trying to hit to really meet the need. Also, just closing comments, NACO has actually put in all of their workforce through this type of training program. So I would have to say, just general impacts of it. We've been able to really hold these types of conversations just on a one-to-one level. And of course, it changed that level of conversation, because these trainings were really driven by the managerial level and above to everybody in the organization. I think there has been a noticeable shift just in how we, kind of conduct ourselves and, just the level of connection that we have to support one another. So with that, I just want to thank you again for your time and, happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding the program. So thanks so much.
Great, Brandon. Thank you. It sounds like this is a great program offering mental health training course for our employees. Does anybody have any questions for Brandon? Yep, Supervisor Sieber.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you so much for your time and quick response and joining us and sharing a little bit more about that program that we learned about just a few months ago at NACO. Again, another benefit of NACO, and I think at least the way I would envision this happening is we talked about a figure between 60 and 65,000 for a complete package at our last ARPA meeting and had agreed or had consensus in the committee to set that aside. So my ask here today would be for a resolution that would approve that type of funding and then also provide direction and work with our HR department, our mental health office, and with our county administrator's office. So I'm thinking about Jackie, Rob, and Tammy, really looking at a tiered approach so that throughout the next several months, once this gets up and running, that it could be done in those cohorts as suggested. But I'm also under the impression that there is specific training that can be tailored for department head level and then also for all of our employees. And within, it sounds like within that price point, we would be able to meet all of those needs. And so that's what I'm hopeful we'll be able to roll out to the entire county to provide training that, as we can just see from some of those numbers, I think one of the most defining numbers there is just talking about suicide alone and, knowing as a department head or someone in your family to be able to say, is this something, handling it correctly and not being afraid to have that discussion. That went from 30% or so up to, I think it said almost 85 or 90% that people are now feeling more comfortable in just addressing that aspect of mental health concerns. So the benefit is enormous as Brandon has shared with us here today.
I think you characterized it correctly. At the last meeting, we had consensus of the committee to set aside the bucket of money. I'm wondering if Brandon can tell us, does he know how many employees we have?
Yes.
Considering that number, are we going to be able to provide training in appropriately sized cohorts?
Yes, I believe so. So in addition to the 4-hour courses and the pricing that you had seen, they also offer more seminar-based courses. So this doesn't have a limit on the cohort size. So what we've seen with some smaller entities, and other counties rather, they've been offering these mental health 101 essential session. So they offer it more as like a lunch and learn countywide, or even just, in an invitation to the whole county to then, really gauge the demand on who from those folks would want to really participate and commit themselves within that 4-hour course. Of course, this is, not going to be as in-depth of a session, but certainly those 60 to 90 minutes can be well spent just to kind of get the word out there and the conversation going.
Interesting. Okay. So Supervisor Sieber,
Yes.
do you want to make a motion for a resolution to allocate the 65,000?
I would. I think after hearing from Brandon here today, and if there are additional questions, we can certainly reach out to the National Association and NACO and partner with them and provide this what I believe to be a critical training to our county employees in the near future.
I think the need is definitely there from hearing from our employees a few months back at a board meeting, for sure. And we can work with our acting county administrator for now, as you mentioned, a team of Jackie and the treasurer, I think is who you were referring to, and Tammy.
Rob York with the Office for Mental
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion on the floor. Anybody? Yes,
Did they
Su-
submit an application?
there was an application submitted. Yeah,
However, I think there was confusion in that being submitted since we agreed on it for our last meeting and wanted to invite NACO in. And so it got scored regardless.
yeah.
So it was a double.
Any other discussion, questions for Brandon? Or we could. All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay. Nay. 2 nays.
I hear 2,
3.
3.
It didn't make the cut on the rating sheet.
Mr. Lamont, do you want to, let's have a, raise your hands, please. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Opposed, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. That carries.
May I also make a note?
No.
I'm sorry, yes, we need 7. Thank you. Go ahead, Supervisor Sieber.
Let me just correct the misconception here. Again, reviewing the YouTube video and our discussion from our last ARPA meeting, there was consensus of this committee as an ARPA team to put aside the money for this project. It was not supposed to be included in the scoring sheet, much like the funds for Countryside were not included in a scoring sheet, or the funds for DPW, or various other things that we've allotted through county government for an immediate need or a need for our county employees. Recognizing the survey results and everything that was conveyed to us about the concern of mental health, and after consulting with our Office for Mental Health, Rob York, this committee had that discussion last month. So that's why we went forward with asking NACO to present to us today. It was, I've spoken with Ethan and Sarah about this, and unfortunately, yes, it was listed in the scoring, but it was not intended to be scored. We put an application in as a placeholder so that we could have NACO here today, learn more information about it, and I didn't want to rush it without the details, given our last meeting, but I appreciated the committee's support and of course the time from NACO to be here and talk about it today. So if you're voting on it because it didn't rank in the top, it didn't rank in the top because it wasn't supposed to be scored.
I think there was confusion about that. I mean, we did have consensus that we would put this money aside.
That doesn't mean we're going to give it away.
What, Dennis?
That doesn't mean that we were going to spend it on this.
We don't have a resolution. That is true.
To be fair, we did have the commitment from this committee that we were going to pursue the mental health toolkit.
And that's what we did.
So what is your suggestion, Mr.?
We
Co-chair.
brought it up, we voted, it was turned down. I think we should move on with the agenda.
So you're suggesting, my suggestion would be that we can leave it on the sheet if it's still something that people want to consider as a scored application.
I don't know. You got a lot of work to do here. There's a lot of
do.
people that are going to be disappointed. There's a lot of work we need to do. going back and reviewing these projects over and over again is non-productive.
Madam Chairwoman.
Yes,
Can I just express my extreme disappointment with the lack of commitment, follow through from the members of this committee voting against this? Last month, we all sat here and agreed that this was a topic that we wanted to pursue. We didn't pass a resolution because of the specific dollar figure. We estimated 65,000. Wanting to make sure that I had all the details and I's dotted and T's crossed, we invited NACO, as we all agreed upon, to this meeting here today. I certainly wouldn't have gone through that process had I thought that this committee was opposed or was up in the air or it needed to be scored. Again, we know that mental health is a real concern in our community. And we know it's a significant concern in our workforce. So we contract all the time for training. And this is something that our county currently cannot meet the needs of what we have heard about. This is a way to bridge that gap and provide our employees and our staff what frankly should be our number one concern. And I don't understand why members are voting against something today after we've had this significant discussion and the error was made to include it for a scoring application.
I understand your disappointment. I'm pretty disappointed too, and I apologize to Brandon for coming here today to talk to us about this important program. I'm not exactly sure how to proceed at this point, other than to continue moving on with our agenda and hope that we can come to some agreement.
Well, given the
After this.
clarification, is there a way to revote? Is anyone changing their mind based on the clarification?
Wayne,
My recommendation is that this gets referred to the HR office as a county expense.
I guess we can do that. I don't understand though why we've done plenty of county things and brought them through the Arpa committee and spent money on the countryside being a big one. And there was no application for that, none for the sewer and water that we already allocated towards. Ray.
Yeah.
Hold on. I know that Ray had his hand up there.
I'm confused too. I'm just to weigh in, I read the minutes, I looked at my notes. I believed after our last meeting, I believed after our last meeting that this was a done deal, except for the final number.
Right.
So this is very confusing to me. We know that mental health issues is one of the top things from the survey. And although I'm not on the board, I understand that you had a presentation from members of your own workforce who said this is a significant issue for us. And this is a group of folks who are on the front lines all the time and have gone through 2.5 years of hell. I don't get it. I don't get it. So
I'd like to ask for a revote.
I mean, we have precedent for revoting.
Right, if I change one word, so I'm gonna change the.
Go ahead. And then we need to keep going.
Amanda.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. So Robert's Rules of Order say the only way you can re-vote on it is either if you substantially change the motion or if someone from the prevailing side is willing to make the motion. So if you have someone who voted against it, that's willing to bring this motion up, then you can vote again, or you're supposed to change the motion substantially.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Leggett,
so.
Supervisor Leggett slash acting county administrator.
Craig. Yeah.
I
The,
appreciate you sitting here in the gallery with the rest of us.
thank you. It's, what's before us today are scorings for more funding than what we have available. And is that correct?
Craig, if
And-
you would entertain me just for a minute.
Sure.
I do not share the opinion of my co-chair that we're going to disappoint a lot of people. I think that we can do a really good job here distributing the money and getting it out to as many people as we possibly can who applied. We may not get everything we asked for, but I think that we can make people in our community very proud of the work that we are doing using these objective scoring and trying to be as careful and fair as possible. So I would just ask that you take that into consideration when you frame what you're about to say about all the applications and all the requests.
Thank you. Thank you. I will. And I think my score sheet that Sarah, the Excel sheet that has been sent up before, I've done some work on this is just for a clarification. So the funding request for the mental health toolbox, was that taken out of the available funds on that spreadsheet already?
Well, I don't want to put Sarah on the spot, but it did go in the spreadsheet, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, I was not aware, was not aware of any communication between Rachel and Ethan about this. Ethan entered it as a project, I believe, after last month's meeting, which I wasn't here for that discussion, so I don't know what the discussion was. Ethan entered it as an application. And then apparently subsequently had some discussion with Rachel about that. I was not aware of any of that discussion, so it remained in the scoring sheet. So yes, it hasn't been taken out. I wasn't aware, like I said, of what happened at the previous meeting or Rachel's discussion with Ethan, and so it stayed in the scoring sheet.
May I also answer that question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
When I saw it in the scoring sheet, and again, this committee agreed to set aside the funding. The issue here was the exact dollar amount. And this
Okay.
committee at the last meeting, there was a consensus to move forward with this project, which is why we invited NACO. While the scoring was going on, when I was going through doing the scoring, I noticed that there was a listing for the mental health toolkit. And prior to that, I'd had email correspondence with Ethan about the fact it was just to be set aside based on the consensus, the minutes, and the discussion here at this committee. He then replied to me while I was doing the scoring and said that that was an error, that the supervisors, the members of this committee would not be able to score it anyway, because it was just supposed to be a placeholder. But it turned out that we could all score it. So when I went in and actually could score it, I emailed Ethan and Sarah and said, I think that there's a problem with this because it was supposed to be a placeholder. And the committee had consensus on moving forward with this. And so that was the dialogue back and forth. So again, I think it was a miscommunication and a clerical error. And the money, as Ray already indicated, this was something we decided on our last meeting. So I think it's disingenuous to invite NACO to talk about this program, to put the work into it, and then come here today and vote it down. And if I need to substantially change, if Craig, you're not willing to support this now and bring it forward based on the rules from the parliamentarian, I guess I can substantially change the resolution and ask, while we were looking at this as soon as possible to address the important issue of mental health in our county workforce and our community, I will then change it to ask that it be included in the 2023 goals and objectives of the Warren County Board of Supervisors and the plans and trainings for next year, and recognize that it will have to wait till January. And I believe that would substantially change it.
But that
Craig,
takes it out of ARPA.
right.
No, with ARPA dollars.
Okay,
With ARPA dollars, just substantially changing it to the date frame where we were going to immediately address the need, and now we're going to have to wait 3 months because we have to substantially change this resolution in order for a revote.
okay. So I haven't gotten the full answer to my question, and I have it on the computer in the other room. There's a list of how much money has been committed already.
No, it's not on that sheet.
It's not on that.
No, because we did not pass a resolution with a specific dollar figure.
Okay, and even the estimated one is
Right.
not in there.
No,
Ethan
Correct.
estimated 60 to 65,000.
And now the request is,
Still
But he-
60 to 65,000 is exactly what we talked about at the last meeting. The only difference here today is I followed up on what the committee agreed upon, which was to have NACO present. And of course, they've prepared, taken the time, and they're here to tell us and told us all about the benefits of this program to address this need in our workforce.
I'm the newest member of the committee. I have catching up to do. So thank you for this.
all right, would you like to make your revised motion?
Is there any member that was in opposition before that would like to make it?
I have a comment.
Yes, Frank.
I guess I didn't pay attention to that at the last meeting, because when I got to that on this, when I was reviewing these requests, I had no idea what that was.
Right.
So, obviously I didn't pay attention at the last meeting very well, so this is basically the first time you know. Maybe not the first time, but
We did have a discussion
Right.
about it at the last meeting and we talked about bringing the NACO representative here to give us more detail.
Let me just read this
Right.
email then to clarify Supervisor Thomas's comment. There wasn't information in there because again, it was just a placeholder. So it wasn't a detailed description. Ethan on 9/20 at 3:13 PM said, hi, it was on the list, but you're correct. We settled this at a previous meeting. There was no additional information, in the dummy application that was submitted. So even if the committee members did not realize that we had already funded it, they wouldn't really have anything to evaluate. That was from Ethan on 9/20. And Sarah, Claudia, and I are all copied on that. So I think does. I mean, I'm not lying about this, members of ARPA. This is exactly what we discussed. So that's the email from Ethan. That should clarify what that clerical error is. So when you say, well, it wasn't even making the top list, there's a reason it wasn't. And Ethan, even though he's not here, I from this email clearly defines that. I'm just asking the committee to keep their consensus with this, and we had approved it. It was just a matter of the final dollars. But such an important need in our community for our workforce, which is why we all supported it last time. So let me,
Anybody?
I'll try
on the
again with
opposition?
substantially changing it then, I guess.
Okay,
I'm hopeful for the support of the committee members now recognizing that it was a clerical error. I have read in Ethan's email. We appreciate Nico's time. We recognize this is big priority. So I guess like to make the resolution that at the start of 2023, using the ARPA dollars that were previously agreed upon by this committee last month, and the concept to provide assistance to our workforce and address an overwhelming need in our county based on our survey results, that we allocate the 65,000 for this program. And of course, if it's not all spent, then we can allocate it to a different project. It would still stay within the ARPA purview. If someone would. Thank you, Supervisor Leggett.
thank you. Could I have a roll call on that, Amanda, please?
We'll call it what?
The revised motion
We just
to
need,
fund the toolkit.
Rachel May putting it
Excuse
off
me.
till January?
Yeah,
Madam Chair, I
yes.
just need a second and then discussion on the motion.
I thought Craig did second it.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
So then we have discussion.
fair enough. Go ahead.
Thank you. So none of you folks who are opposed to it expressed why when we voted the first time. So I would like to ask those who are opposed to it to let us know why you're opposed to it. Since at the last meeting, it was clear that we all felt that we should do it. So I'd like to know what changed your mind and what the difference is this time around.
I don't believe there is a difference. I think what we discussed and what's in the minutes is that we would listen to a NACO presentation. The committee was agreeable to that. I think this should be funded out of the county general fund for employees. I think ARPA funds can go elsewhere. I think there's a need for elsewhere. And I just think that this should be a county expense to take care of county employees, if that's what this program is for. If it was for the general public, I'd fund it. But if it's just for the county employees, I think that's a responsibility of the county budget.
Anybody else? Supervisor Beatty?
Well, I voted for it, but using that thought process, Mr. Lamont, why did we fund the roads? That's a county responsibility. Yeah, we took $4 million out of the ARPA money to fund the county road in Stony Creek and Bay Road in Queensbury. So I don't follow that thought process in all due respect. This is definitely something that is the #1 need probably in the county is mental health. And we've all recognized and established that. We've given over $1 million to Mr. York with all the different applications he's had come in to try to help out the mental stability in this county. And to ignore 900 county employees for $60,000, I think is reckless. So that's my 2 cents. But we did fund the roads for $4 million out of ARPA money, which was the county responsibility all along. Fixing roads is our #1 responsibility, county-wise.
Okay. Amanda,
Ready?
go ahead.
Hey, Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
No.
Ms. Seaver.
Yes.
Mr. Agnew,
Yes.
Ms. Gillis,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
No.
Mr. Beatty,
Definitely yes.
Mr. Lamont,
No.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
Okay, so it's the same vote, so it still fails. It's the same vote you had last time. You have 1, 2, 3,
No.
4,
I
5.
thought Mr. Leggett switched, or no?
Nope, you had 6 in favor and 3 against. You need
Okay.
Last time was 5-4, but.
Yeah,
That's
it's okay.
I
All right.
I only had 3 voting in opposition last time.
Oh.
Mr. Dickinson, Mr. Thomas, and Mr. Lamont.
No, Mr. Leggett voted no last time.
You did.
Mr. Lamont, may I have a motion that we refer this to the Personnel Committee?
I would give you that motion that this gets referred to whichever committee is appropriate, which is probably HR,
Sure.
personnel.
Is there a second to that motion?
I would amend that motion to go to the Office for Mental Health Committee. I that was probably where, in my opinion, it would be most
I don't care what committee.
relevant.
Let's move it forward.
Correct.
Is that okay with you, Wayne?
Yeah,
Move it to-
Yep, whichever
Office of Mental
committee is the best fit.
And I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on that?
I don't, I want to be clear, I'm not seconding it.
Okay.
If it's going to go to the Office for Mental Health, then fine. I in a very rare moment lost for words. So I don't care if it goes to the full board and it goes off the floor for a discussion, but believe me, we are going to keep talking about the issues in our community about mental health. And frankly, Mr. Lamont, if you want to open this up so that we can also train the community, then let's do that. Let's have these open sessions and train not only our staff, but open it up to places like the hospital that aren't members of NACO and place and town municipalities that may not be members of NACO, so that we could expand the program and provide that much more assistance to our county. That, again, would be an excellent use of ARPA dollars. And if you would like, I'm happy to make that motion and if that would get your support, Mr. Lamont, I'd be happy to do that, knowing we're going to reach more people in our community. And we can still do it for 65,000.
If it can be done for that, yes, I'd agree to that.
Out of ARPA?
Out of our,
Then I would like to make the motion that we look at this as a community-wide type of training to provide with priority registration, of course, to our county members, but also to our community members, our municipal partners, our partners at the hospital, and all the volunteers that work so hard around our community, that work countless hours during COVID. And we will get the job done with 65,000 and provide important training to our community using ARPA dollars for exactly what they were intended for. If someone would please second that motion.
I'm sorry, Ms. Bramer.
Well,
There's a
hold
motion
on.
on the floor.
Yeah,
Or amend, I'm sorry, if Mr. Lamont, if you would amend your motion to
I
reflect
will
that,
accept that amendment.
and I would second it with that amendment.
you got all that, Amanda?
I think so.
All right, we'll discuss it in a second. Brandon, are you still listening to us at all?
I am on.
Is there any prohibition against opening the seminars to the public? Our partners?
No, we are open to that. And the National Council actually has a component to the mental health first aid program that really enables that train the trainer model. We've actually seen a large success in Hawaii County where they've actually put an initial cohort of trainers with a pledge that those initial trainers would then train another group free of charge. So that initial group of 30 folks has now really grown to around 300 trainers in their community. So we have seen that, and we certainly can still have the seminar-based courses along with that model.
Thank you. I'm going to extend privilege of the floor without objection if anyone from the public who would like to say something on this motion. Go ahead. You got to go to the mic though, please.
Okay. I think I followed everything that Christine Norton, ADK Excursions. I am also an ARPA grant requestee. So I just wanted to say, I think we heard from 2 out of the 3 folks that voted it down. I think the gentleman in the back might not have given his reasons, but correct me if I'm wrong, that's not a problem anymore, right? This is moving forward, just
We still have to vote on it.
okay. But I would have to agree with a lot of the comments that have been made in this discussion, in that, you know, the last time I was here, $4 million was given to out of the ARPA funding to repair roads, which is frankly the main function or one of the main functions of what this actual the county does. So I'm struggling to understand why mental health, which is a global crisis and clearly one here in Warren County, why we would vote down $65,000, yet give $4 million of funding to the roads. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion in front of us to spend the 65,000, including public outreach and training, education, mental health?
Oh,
William and Frank.
I'm just curious, with the added clientele, is 65 enough?
Okay, maybe Brandon can answer that. Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, well, before we vote on this, I did just read the minutes. Wayne had a copy of them, and it did. The minutes indicate to me that we agreed to listen to the gentleman from NACO. I didn't see the consensus on the 65. In fact, it said 50 to 65.
Okay,
So I guess maybe if I had a little more information, you know, and that's what the gentleman from NACO provided, was more information, and had a couple minutes to think about it, I might agree to vote for this. But, you know, when you start pushing it at me, I sort of push back. So.
Rachel.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I understand when things are pushed upon people and how they feel, and that's certainly never the intent, Supervisor Thomas. The minutes are summary minutes. We did pass a resolution, and we follow Robert's rules where we do have it on YouTube Live, and we retain the minutes on our website. So what you're looking at are summary minutes. And there was a discussion about what the dollar amount would be. And in fact, Ethan had suggested it be even a little bit more, given the idea of what are we looking at expense wise? Will it be in person? Will it be virtual? And how will that play out? And that's why we asked our partners at NACO. I think the idea about train the trainer is a phenomenal one, so that we still could provide perhaps not the most detailed training to all of our employees, but we could still provide that to our department head level to our employees as a general concept of the 101, which Brandon had talked to us about. But the train the trainer model will continue to provide dividends to our community and our residents over and over throughout the year. And I look forward to seeing that type of after action summary report. I'm sure, just thinking about our hospital partners or our municipalities, how quickly that could be utilized. So I do think the bang for your buck with this type of investment is incredibly important and valuable. And I hope for a unanimous vote here.
I do want to circle back to Brandon and see if he can answer the question about the dollar amount that we're talking about allocating now. Is it going to be too thin, or what do you think?
I think it would be enough to put in an initial group of trainers. So the pricing model, of course, is going to be a little bit different. With that initial group of 15 trainers, is going to be around $52,000. So of course, you know, it may not be the initial scale that we're looking for, but certainly those initial 15 trainers now have the ability to share that knowledge with folks within the county or within your community.
I would just say, Chairwoman, this is a compromise. Despite what I recall to be the last meeting, but regardless, this is a compromise. We aren't going to reach every single member of our staff or our community, but 15 trainers that will be able to go out in our community would make a big difference.
Okay, not seeing anybody else's hands up. Can I call the question? All right, Amanda.
All right, Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Ms. Seaver,
Yes.
Mr. Agnew,
Yes.
Ms. Gillis. Yes. Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Lamont,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
unanimous.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you for your compromise to the committee members. And with that, I will try to get us back on track. Thank you so much, Brandon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
We'll have our internal team get in touch with you guys.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I want to start just introducing myself. I'm Claudia Bramer, and co-chair Dennis Dickinson is here, and we also have with us today. Thank you, Sarah Frankenfeld. I would like to turn it over to you to give us an update on what you did with all of the application scores and what we have in front of us today. And then Without trying to push anything on anybody, I would like to try to get through the first category of applications, which are, Sarah's gonna explain to us how she did this, but we'll see that there is the top category of priority projects includes all the assistance to nonprofits that kind of bubble to the top. So I'd like to talk about those today. And if we can get a resolution to move some of those forward, if not all of them, at least, a batch of them. All right, Sarah, it's
Okay.
you. Thank you very much for all the work that you did in a very, very short amount of time. It's very appreciated by the whole committee.
So first of all, I just wanted to apologize to Supervisor Seaver. I went back through all my emails. I did not see that email from Ethan. I couldn't, or that you sent to Ethan and copied me on. I don't know what happened to it. Had I seen it, obviously I would have followed up on that and taken it out. So I apologize for that.
Oh, that's fine. I forwarded over to you from when I.
Okay. So I sent everybody an email kind of with a summary of how I organized and tallied the scores. So I won't go over that again in extreme detail, although I know we have additional people here. Basically, everything was given an average score based on the score assigned by the reviewers divided by the total number of reviewers. Most applications were reviewed by the majority of the committee, but there were a few instances in which there were conflicts of interest and people recused themselves from reviewing, one or two applications. So those were included. I also assigned all of the projects a priority score. One of the review questions was whether the reviewer considered the project to be a priority or not. So I tallied the number of yes votes for each project, divided it by the total number of reviewers, and assigned a priority score using that methodology. And then I sorted all of the projects by average score and assigned an overall rank. Projects that received the same score were given the same rank. And then I divided them by Arpa category and then ranked them again within their own category. So the full list of projects is in this spreadsheet here that has all projects. Those are sorted by from high score to low score. Then from there, to determine the top scoring projects, I took the projects that were either in the top half of all scores or the top or had 50% or higher priority. So in other words, half or more of the committee members considered it to be a priority project. And then from that list, I further refined it down to everything that was in the top half average scores and was considered a top half priority project. And then I separated those into categories and listed them by average score. So that's this spreadsheet here with the blue and white lines. And then at the end of this spreadsheet, we had some projects that were considered a priority, but did not fall in the top half of overall scores. And then we had some projects that did fall in the top half of overall scores, but were not considered a priority. So those are listed in a separate table at the end of this blue and white striped spreadsheet. This sheet right here just lists the total number of projects in each category. And how much funding was requested in each category. And then these sheets here are the individual project sheets that just have a summary of overall score, funding request, how they ranked, and then also include all the comments that reviewers submitted. So the nonprofits, which are the ones that you're going to be focusing on today, are on top, and these are ordered by overall score. The remainder of them are all separated into categories and they're just sorted alphabetically because I wasn't sure how you were going to proceed after today. So I just put them alphabetical. And that's it. I guess if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, I'll let you get to it.
Absolutely. I know you have a prior engagement, so we don't want to keep you too long, Sarah, but does anyone have any questions about the way Sarah has organized these? I think it's wonderful. If you look at the priority sheet, which is the one that has the blue and the white alternating colors, you can look in that column that says overall rank. So it's the overall rank of that project for all the rankings. And you'll see that obviously these ones are mostly the top 1, 2, for whatever reason, 3 is somewhere else, 4, 5, 6, 7. Are you guys following with me? What is that next one? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. We need row headers at the top of these pages. Of the subsequent pages. All right, anyway, 10, 11, 14, 15 are there in that first category. But if you look at the all projects spreadsheet, that obviously has all the projects there listed with in order of their overall rank, straight down through 1 through 72. Does anybody have any questions on the numbers? Just the numbers before we get into process and digging in. Go ahead, Craig.
I'm just really impressed with what Sarah has done. You have made our life so easy. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, lots of thanks to the committee members who went through and took the time to score all of these and make this make this spreadsheet possible.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
didn't all the
Right.
committee members score the sheets?
I don't know that for sure.
It looked like it by the numbers.
Right.
Looks like about 9 people.
Nine scored. Well, then, may I suggest that those 9 have the input? If someone didn't take the time to score the sheets, how can they have the input needed, the depth? That's my observation. So let's go forward.
Okay, so Dennis and I did meet last week and kind of tried to get ourselves organized about moving forward today. And what we had agreed upon, obviously, this is subject to committee's approval, but to start with this first category of assistance to nonprofits, they're the ones that really have risen to the top of not only our kind of subjective surveys from last year about helping not-for-profits in the community, but also they're objectively ranked the highest. So rather than kind of skipping on, one thing we thought we could do was go through the top of each category. But I think it'll be more organized if we just stick with one category and try to go through those and award them or set them aside. And then go through the next categories at a future meeting. All right, I'm not hearing anyone with any major objections to that. I haven't heard from anybody on the committee about any particular way to do this, so I'm gonna just proceed with the best that we can. All right. So if you're looking at the blue and white striped bid sheet, I don't know if people want to take those one by one, but I think the first 4 are some of the highest scored. They've all been marked as priority projects by the majority of the scorers, and they have reasonable dollar amounts. These are Tri-County Literacy, Family Services, Caritas, which is non-medical, non-hands-on support for seriously and terminally ill individuals, and the Greater Adirondack Home Aids.
I'd move those 4.
A second.
Okay. I have a motion for moving the first 4 to allocate the funding for the first 4 there. And a second. How about discussion on that?
Talking full funding.
I think hopefully this will go, yes, Supervisor Bee.
What percentage funding are you asking to move forward with?
What are you, 100%?
Yeah, what that is for.
100% of the total funding requested is my understanding of the motion.
That would be for the first 4,
Yes,
which would amount to
16,338, then 20,000, then 32,000 and 18,000.
86,338, if my math is correct.
I have to trust you for that math.
I'm just adding it up in my head.
1, 2, 3,
Ray?
4.
Do we have somebody that's gonna keep
86,
tally of all this?
338.
Do we know where
That's
we
what I said.
stand?
Amanda will do that.
I don't have anything that you're looking at. so
Okay.
I don't have any idea.
Right, the first,
Right, she needs one.
the first page that we're doing, the total is on the bottom, 1.6 million.
No, I mean, as we allocate funding, who's gonna keep track of it so we know where we stand with what's left?
That'd be Wayne.
Madam,
Yes, Craig,
the first four Tri-County Family Services, Caritas and Greater Adirondack Home Health Aids totals $86,338.
I was.
338,
Math was
26,338.
Not bad,
Um,
pencil.
Ray, to answer your question for right now, I will keep track. I'm hoping that I'm being double and triple checked and the video is getting us to.
If you could just name who you're giving the money to,
Sure.
any amounts.
Sure.
Because we don't have that.
Tri-County Literacy at 16,338. Family Services Association of Glens Falls at 20,000. Near Care at 32,000. And Greater Adirondack Home Aids at 18,000. Yes.
Can we please ask our staff to make our clerk of the board a copy? And now that Ray just gave it to Amanda, maybe Ray could be resupplied as a committee member
Yes.
for the copy.
I have it electronic. You have-
Can you help make a copy, please? Unless you have one over there. Sarah left hers, maybe? No.
This first page that we're looking at.
And Madam Chairman,
That's all right.
and Madam Chairman, could we have, as we do this, and we allocate funding for different organizations, can we have a running total of what's left so that we don't mistakenly allot money that we don't have?
I'm just gonna give Amanda my sheet, okay?
She's got a copy.
I've got.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
You need one, Ray?
Ray gave her hers.
Okay.
And that's the generosity of the hospital right there. They keep on giving.
Can I ask you to try to keep a tally, a running total of the numbers?
Yes.
Thank
I'll-
you.
I'll do my best here.
Yes.
Out of the, what we have left is something like 4.5 million. I forget what the number is.
Yeah, do we have that exact number?
Yeah, we do.
Um,
Do you have that?
that
4,520,898.
So $4,520,898, and we just spent $86,338. Is that correct? We're
Yeah.
All on the same page?
What about the 65,000?
No, you're talking.
What?
You asked for the total we have to spend.
And then now we just subtracted $86,338. That's correct.
Plus 65,000
Plus 65,000 for the year.
spent, yeah.
Okay.
Out of the 4.5 million.
Okay, all right.
Okay. I still have a motion on the floor. I'm gonna call the question on the first floor. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Okay, the next one, let's take that one, Habitat for Humanity, Northern Saratoga, Washington and William counties. Bay Ridge Mixed Income Housing requesting $250,000.
Could somebody explain to me, right here, can explain to me exactly what they're gonna do with that money?
Yeah. Like, after I read the application and I called and followed up, they want that money for housing to create 24 new low-income housing Bay Road behind the Baywood Center. They happen to own 25 acres. And they needed that money for some of the seed money. They're expecting to get some of the other money from other sources, but they're looking to create some low-income housing.
Thank you very much. I
Affordable.
appreciate that.
Yeah, it's I think the total project is somewhere around 10 million, am I right? 12 million, $12 million. They're looking for $250,000 of ARPA.
Hold that.
You'll make that motion, Frank?
Yep.
Do I have a second to put this on the floor?
What's the motion
I think for full funding.
250, right?
for that one item?
Yep.
I'll second it.
I think it's a priority in the
I agree.
county and
Hold on, I can't hear when you guys are talking and I can't see you. Who's talking right now? Frank, thank you. Go ahead, Frank.
well, I'm at 250,000 because I think the housing is a priority. In many areas and especially, the workforce, just people that need housing, people that are coming here and can't find housing. I think it's important.
Doug?
I'm not going to support full funding. They've got a number of other agencies that they can get additional funding for. I would support like 25% funding to help them out. But I think the fact that we have 4.5 million and we have 73 requests, I think if we start giving $250,000 here, $250,000 there, and $500,000 there, we're going to run dramatically short. And by the time we get to the end, unfortunately, if that's where they come on the list, they're going to be shorted. So I'll support them, but to the tune of 25,000. So.
Okay, let's take that in a second. Any other discussion on this? Ray?
Yeah, I agree. It's a great project. I agree with Supervisor Thomas. It's a great project, but I also agree with Supervisor Beatty that that's a big chunk of money. And my concern in reading it the first time around, that may be my first comment on the bottom there. I think it's an important project, but it was really hard to understand exactly how they were going to handle it all. How are they going to get the property? What's the world? I had more questions than I had anything else. As much as I think Habitat is an awesome organization and we absolutely need affordable housing for our workforce here. So I had some concerns.
Frank, would you be open to amending it to 25,000?
Doug, just a second,
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry.
Craig,
Well,
I'll come back to you, I promise.
That's all right.
that's right. This is an on-ground project and it requires a bunch of money to get things started. They do have good support because people join in. I would say no less than 125,000 for this if you're going to cut it at all. Yeah. And I would support full.
So we got a full 250 on the floor with a second. Yeah. That's not very much money for a $12 million project. I think we should give it to them, get them started.
Doug,
I think some people read the application, some didn't, and they listed a number of other sources. Excuse me, I'm coming down with a cold, that they can get the funding from. I think giving them is 25 a little low, maybe, but at the end of the day, I'm looking at this 4.5 million in 72 requests and a logical and common sense thought process. And if we start giving $250,000 to an agency that has numerous other places they can go to get the money, whereas a number of these other applicants do not have other places to go to get funding, I think we're doing a disservice to what we're supposed to be doing with the money. So I'm willing to support them. But I don't think we can afford, that's a word we should use at the county a little more. I don't think we can afford to give them $250,000, which is, let's see, 10% big four. So we're going to give them 7% of the total allotted money in Arpa for this one project. I don't think that's right.
I will remind everyone, we had set aside $1 million for housing and we don't have any other projects. Wayne, you had your hand up.
Well, I think we had this discussion the other day in the office. My only concern with this is that the application states they have to secure $11 million plus in financing. If we allocate the money, and quite honestly, I'm in favor of starting the process, but I think they need to demonstrate that they can secure the other funding through a letter of an intent to fund or something, because if we award this, we have until the end of 2024 to allot all the money. And if they don't use it by the end of 2024 because they can't secure third-party financing, this money goes back to the federal treasury. It doesn't come to the county. So that's something that we need to look at. They have until 2026 to spend it. But, if we leave it out there, I just want to make sure that they are going to have the ability to secure the other financing before we release this. Not that they, have to do any groundwork, but just some letter of intent that the project is under review and that they have the opportunity to secure funding.
I think that's a good point. Make it part of it.
So
So I'm hearing there's maybe Frank still has a motion on for 100%. Is there a compromise to go to 50%?
No,
Am I like
compromise is put in a restriction that they gotta show us they can get it.
show funding?
but then Mr. Lamont just say that we'd lose the funding. If they don't get the funding, it doesn't come back to ARPA, it goes back to the US Treasury.
I did reach out to Mr. Feldman about this, and he provided a letter of intent regarding a different project where they are funding 10 or $12 million. So we could go back to them and ask for them to get a similar letter of intent before we authorize this. I mean, he has significant financial background. He's not somebody who's, obviously they are able to put together multi-million-dollar packages. I don't,
But let's support them, but let's do it at a little late so that other applicants can be rewarded for their hardships too. I mean, and this is almost 7% of the ARPA money remaining. We're going to put it
get it somewhere, get a compromise here if we, or do you want to just call the question on the full amount?
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there. Brad, you're on the committee, so I will open it up to privilege of the floor without objection.
No objection here.
Okay. Brad and then Mr. Siplin.
I thank you, Chairwoman Rammer. But, you know, I'm sitting here, I am not on the committee and I thank you for letting me speak. You know, it just reminds me of, this is what happens when we have the Octex money and we just bang off the numbers and then at the end, we don't have enough. So, you know, a compromise is some big figures. I have to agree. So really in the process, if you go through and get a feel of maybe running through and put out some figures and then come back and adjust, but at, you know, 7%, we're not even going to get through, you know, the first two pages and we'll be out of money. It's just something I put together with like the Octex money when we're divvying up that money.
Okay, this is on that. I have to say though, we are going by the top priority and objective ranking. This is scored number 4. It's not like we're pulling this out of the middle of the sheets.
No, and I understand that. Thank you. That's my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, with letting people talk quickly.
Well,
Then I'll come to you, Rachel.
Thank you for allowing me to be heard. I just spent a big part of my afternoon talking to the Economic Development Committee about this. It's important that you understand the same facts that they understand. We currently have thousands of open jobs in this community, many of which were created by the pandemic that you're attempting to address, many of which are in the healthcare sector, hundreds of which are in the healthcare sector. The single greatest need to filling those is housing. There are less than 200 homes in Warren County available to purchase today for less than $500,000 against a need of nearly 2,000 open jobs. This economy, the community, the healthcare that it so desperately needs will never be met unless we step into this need. I wish there were more applicants providing you with a choice of alternatives to invest your money on from housing, but one credible one stood up. The idea that others didn't come should not keep them from being funded at what I consider to be a ridiculously low amount for the county to invest in the single greatest need that we have. I wish he were here to defend himself, but oftentimes this is what causes people to put in bids that say they need $1 million. Because then they're worried that they're going to be automatically kind of arbitrarily drawn down. He gave you a estimate, a very low estimate to go leverage funds, $250,000 to secure more than $10 million. You should protect your interest. You should demand that that money be spent well in advance of when it would expire and that fund come back to you for redistribution if he can't use it. But I can tell you from experience, that organization will use it. The only entity that has developed outside of a government one housing in the North Country in the last 5 years is Habitat for Humanity. And they are a credible partner. I don't think you're at risk here at all. Thank you for letting me be heard.
Thank you for being brief, Jim. Yes, Rachel.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Our agenda, I'm a little concerned that we don't have privilege of the floor at the beginning and at the end, but we are in very dangerous territory with our open meeting laws. And having discussion from members that are not on the committee that influence the debate and process. That being said, I did not call a point of order, but I do want to highlight the fact that the only item that scored 100% in front of us as a 100% priority was the very first one, Tri-County Literacy, and the average score was 91. So when we all scored these, we weren't told, here's your pot of money, do it based on the pot of money and the percentage allocated to it. We came up with a scoring rubric as if we had unlimited money. So how would you rank it based on the qualifications before us? That was the agreement by this committee. So now's the time to look at it and do the pro rata amount and look at, well, what's the percentage? What's the average score? So if you're going to take the 100% idea to every single one, the supervisor from Queensbury is absolutely right. We developed a scoring sheet. We need to follow our scoring sheet. We need to follow the rules that we set before us. So, you know, we can go back and forth and say every project's wonderful, but as we've heard here today, we can't even get on the same. My point is made.
You have made your point. I think that it will be very hard to give 100% of funding to all the projects. We are talking about a project that is ranked 4th. I will stop because I know I'm not supposed to be debating too much, but I will say as a matter of fact that under the priority projects, the total requested is 3 million. That is less than our total amount that we have to allocate. If we were to fully fund every single priority project, we could get them all funded. Well, we're trying to get there.
That's the point. That was the point of doing all this. We scored them, we rated them, we gave them priorities. We told you how much money it was in the priorities. It's just like Claudia said. We got $3,035,000. We can do all these top priorities. Then we can look at the other page. I'm gonna tell you right now, there's a good number of projects in here. I crossed right off. There's no way I'm gonna finance them.
Did you do the scoring?
I did not do the scoring, Rachel. Then how can you comment on stuff? I went to school and I learned how to read. Yeah, but you're reading now. I spent 4 hours.
That she embarrassed us.
You're co-chair of this committee.
For crying out loud.
Responsibility.
Embarrassed you and yourself by not doing.
The floor.
Thank you.
I have a motion on the floor. If Mr. Thomas is not willing to amend the motion, I need to have a motion to amend his motion, which is right now at full funding. Yes, Doug?
I compromise and amend it to $100,000. That would still give us out of the 250.
All right, so I have an amendment to the motion, which is to fund Habitat, but the amendment would be to make it at $100,000 funding. Is there a second? I know we don't technically need one, but just bear with me. Okay, any discussion on the amendment to go down to 100,000 or whatever you want?
I just do want to ask Wayne for clarification. We have to obligate the money by 2024, January 1 or December 31.
December 31, 2024.
And then they have till 2026 to spend it.
Right, but if in 2025, they
Didn't
can't spend it. The
It
money
back
goes
to
to the treasury, not
Right.
back to the fund.
Okay. That's fair.
It leaves ARPA.
Yes.
Okay. So a vote on the amendment, which is about, we're funding them, but at 100,000, not the 250. I'll call the question. All those in favor of the amendment regarding the funding level, please say aye.
Aye.
We have a roll.
Opposed to the amendment,
Opposed.
opposed.
Aye.
Would you like a roll call
Roll call vote.
on the amendment about the funding amount?
Ms. Bramer,
No.
Mr. Dickinson,
No.
Ms. Seaver,
Yes.
Mr. Agnew,
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Gillis,
No.
Mr. Thomas,
No.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Lamont,
No.
Mr. Leggett.
No.
Motion fails.
Okay, so we're back to the motion on the floor for full funding. Yes, Doug?
So it was 6-3. But that doesn't need the 7 plurality that we've been
You
using.
have to have 7 people in favor for it to pass.
Okay, so now that we voted on the 250, it's going to need 7 to pass. If 3 don't vote for it, it won't pass. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Frank?
Call the question, please.
I can call the question. All those in favor of the motion on the floor, which is to fully fund Habitat for Humanity at 250,000. Better do roll call.
Ms. Bramer.
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Ms. Seaver,
No.
Mr. Agnew,
Yes.
Ms. Gillis,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Definitely no.
Mr. Lamont,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have 7 votes in favor, so that passes.
Okay. Someone's keeping track.
I'll add that.
Okay.
Our balance.
Take 7% out. I'll help you with math.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
it was a good point that we have before us all of the top scoring priority projects, and it is about 3.5 million. We have 4.5 million to spend. That's correct?
No, it's 3 million. And we have 4.5.
Thank you.
It's 3,030,000. 35.
I would propose that we take the next 3 as a batch. This is. If anyone's opposed to that, just speak up and we'll take it, we'll take one out. Sky Farm Camp and Retreat at 50,000. The Glens Falls Senior Center at 15,000. And Research Foundation for SUNY Cardinal Chromebooks at 32,335. And I will say that is for SUNY Plattsburgh,
At Queensberry.
not at Queensberry.
At Queensberry.
Go ahead. Rachel.
I'm opposed to grouping them together for this reason, and I did notify the planning department about this, hopefully with the county attorney's office. I am an adjunct professor for SUNY Plattsburgh at Queensberry in our community, and I cannot engage in the debate or the vote as it relates to that. So I would ask that you vote on those separately.
Sure, let's just take those first 2 then, or the next 2. Any objection to that?
Sky Farm and Greater Glens Falls?
Yep.
Okay.
Do I have a motion for those 2? Dennis? Second? Wayne? Discussion. So the motion is to fund Sky Farm and Greater Glens Falls Senior Center at 100% of their request, 50,000 and 15,000. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Okay. SUNY Plattsburgh at Queensberry, SUNY Cardinal Chromebooks for $32,335. Do I have a motion for that? Then
I'll move it.
Wayne,
Second.
discussion? Yes, Doug?
Yeah, they have access to ARPA money, millions of dollars. They're looking for 32,000. I mean. When different institutions have access to millions of dollars. I'm kind of at a loss why they keep tapping into county funds that other people do not have access to. Like they couldn't go to SUNY Adirondack and ask for ARPA money. So, we gotta, if you have other sources, I think you're kind of like double dipping. You have another source, main source to go to, but you don't go to, that's all I'm saying. It just takes away from others that don't have that ability to go to that ARPA source. That's what I'm saying. Additional ARPA source.
I don't know how much SUNY Plattsburgh got, or if SUNY Plattsburgh at Queensberry got anything. It's separate from SUNY Adirondack.
But they got money, I'm positive.
Oh, go ahead, Beth.
Did I read it correctly that they were going to grant Chromebooks to students as part of the project? Can we ask that those only be granted to Warren County residents that are or are they going to be granted to whoever enters into the program? So someone from Massachusetts, someone from Albany, wherever.
Good question.
I think we can say that we would limit it to Warren County residents.
Okay, thank you.
Ray?
So, well, I just answered my own question. They had 3 different proposals, so and this is the only one that made it into this one.
Yeah.
Only one I-
I can't remember if they had 3 or only 2.
They have another one in a different
They
category.
definitely have at least one more.
In mental health.
Support to public health.
That advocate one was different. I think that went to community services board. Yeah,
And textbooks on reserve is in the top of the support public health response category, field page 3.
all right. So with a condition that the Chromebooks are only granted to Warren County residents. You good with that, Dennis?
Yes.
Okay. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed. One opposed, that carries, and an abstention. Actually, maybe that doesn't carry. How many do we have?
Then have 7. You have 7, you have 9 people. You have 1 abstain. and
So we still had 7
So
in favor, so that does pass. Okay.
So that passes.
Let's take the next one by itself. Open Door. Life Path Program for 100,000.
What are we on, Madam Chairman?
Oh, Open Door,
Open door. Okay, thank you.
just take that one by itself.
What's the dollar amount?
100,000 was what they requested.
What's our available balance right now?
Our available balance right now is $4,087,225. $4
Mind
million.
just updating us each time, Craig?
Did I skip that one?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Do I have a second? Is the motion for full funding? 100%, 50%, 100%? Frank? Discussion. Yes,
And each time I did the scoring, which took me 3 full nights to do, and reviewing each application, I listed comments and questions. I was under the impression someone was going to answer my questions, but when I did the scoring, I had it lower because I thought that there were several grants with the state and then also some other funding that may be a conflict or community funds that could be utilized. I hope everyone looked at where we could also send the people for funding if we weren't able to approve it 100%. So is there any conflict with this? And there are other sources of funding, or there's no? I mean, I'm pulling up the worksheet of all the scores and all the comments that I left.
yeah, here's, I don't see one about a question exactly about the conflicts.
I think I also put, because of the statement above, I wasn't able to score 100%, but I was looking for more of the link between
Oh.
COVID, looking at our scoring sheets, the funding requests filled out. So I'm gonna have to abstain. I just didn't get any information back on my question. Which is fine.
Discussion, anything further? Beth,
Have they coordinated with all of the funding we already gave Liza? Because it's for great skill coaching and employment.
I don't know.
I don't know, is there, I guess to Rachel's point, is there overlap in other funding that was already distributed? And maybe we could just get clarification before
I don't know.
we vote.
I'm a little concerned about that too,
Like I said, I did look that.
right?
Why don't I withdraw the motion? There's enough questions. We'll probably should look into it.
Okay, we'll leave it on. Yep. Today's not gonna be our last day.
Thank you for recognizing my concerns with my unanswered questions. I appreciate that to members of the committee.
And thank you for Ray. Okay. This is another one, the Tri-County United Way request.
Wait, did we vote on that?
We didn't, the motion was withdrawn.
Okay.
We're just gonna hold it in abeyance.
Make sure it's not.
I'll see what we can find out about it.
Mhm. This is another one, guys, I think that we need to ask for more information and find out if they still want this request, given that their request was to help other not-for-profits, but it looks like a lot of our local not-for-profits asked for their own funding.
Right.
So I don't know that we still need to allocate 400,000 for Tri-County United Way. Yes, Wayne?
I would ask that we kind of table this one because this would be a subrecipient agreement and they have not clearly identified the subrecipients.
Right.
Under the ARPA rules and regs, this would actually they'd be a distributing agency, so they would be a subrecipient, and that falls a whole different category of how
Right.
it's rated, reviewed, and score and reported.
Rachel?
I somewhat disagree with that. I mean, we asked to only be looking at things that qualified under the ARPA category, and when there were questions, those are things I think should have been addressed before now, but the Dovia, the Directors, Volunteers and Agencies, all of these not-for-profits that they do assist, there's many, many more than what we're seeing here in our list through United Way. I would be in favor of decreasing the request in the spirit of compromise, but also recognizing we have a lot of applications in front of us, but it came in at an average score of 75 and an average rank at 50%. So you would be looking at that and our average scores, saying, okay, maybe 200,000 to provide some immediate relief to an emergency fund, which is desperately needed in Warren County.
I'm not saying it's not necessarily needed, and Tri-County United Way is a great partner. They have done a ton. They already allocate ARPA money, federal ARPA money. I just didn't think that we had all our questions answered, and you're right, we didn't do it before today. But do you want to, is that a motion to fund it at 50%?
I'll defer to the committee. I don't.
What do you want, does the committee, and I know where you stand, anybody else? Ray?
I agree with Wayne. Tri-County United Way is fabulous. I think probably all of us around the table here support them. But I think Wayne's points are spot on. And that was my concern in reading it, is that it felt like it was a pass through. And if it's a pass through, then that makes it a different category of organization. And I just feel like we don't have enough information. Not that it's not a worthy proposal, but that we need to do a little more homework with it.
Beth, then I'll come to you, Wayne.
Okay.
I agree. I would just like to know who these entities would be, and if they are different from ones we're already giving money to, it's a totally different, group of people, then I think we can talk about a bigger dollar amount. If it's, I just, need more information to make a decision.
Everybody good with that? Wayne, you still want to say something?
I'd just like the county attorney to weigh in on if this is indeed a recipient agreement, what form it would take, what he would need to say we could do an agreement.
Oh, yeah, we don't have any attorneys.
I know, we don't. Yeah, put right to the list, Wayne, because our attorney hasn't been here for 2 days. Okay, so I'm just gonna hold that one, same as we did the last one, and keep it on our list.
Just for a point of clarification, since we all had different recollections from last month, when you say hold, are you holding the money or you're holding the decision?
I mean, if we get, I'm holding decision.
Okay, so we're still at 4, for whatever Craig told us last time.
I'm not, hold on. I'm not saying that we're allocating the money or even setting it aside. If we decided to go forward and allocate the rest of the 3 million today, they'd be out.
Okay.
We're not holding the money for them.
We're gonna be out. We're gonna move.
And they're part of.
How many more?
I don't think that's gonna happen, though, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We need more meetings to go through the rest. I mean, it's almost 5 o'clock. I don't want to be here all night. Sorry, guys. Yes, Doug.
Yeah, Madam Chairwoman, I was talking to Mr. York about we've allocated $1 million for mental health. And it was my impression that it's going to come in a lot higher, well, not a lot higher, but higher. Probably $500,000 higher but he's not firm yet on that, but I had a discussion with him yesterday about that in our health committee. So just a FYI, which we've all designated mental health as being the top priority or one of the top priorities. Hopefully we'll have $500,000 left to satisfy those needs, because $1 million seems to be low in his opinion yesterday.
I think Frank said that months ago.
Said what?
That the $1 million wasn't going to be enough.
What?
I do have an update from Rob via Wayne. If you want to give the committee that, I meant to put that earlier.
Okay, the CSB section of this received requests for $4,077,413. I gave referral to the Finance Committee for resolution requests from the Community Services Board totaling $142,893. They also took 3 of the applications and determined they were eligible for opioid funding, so they funded them through that category. that leaves 5 applications that they still have active. The big one is the hospital, but that the total remaining is $3,552,804 that they're still considering taking some kind of review and action on.
Can you say that number again?
Make me put my glasses back on.
Sorry.
$3,552,804. And just as part of that, the hospital is $2,434,752. So not trying to single out the hospital, but it is, you know, the others are in there also. And so we did, Rob and I did talk about if there was funding left over to try to allocate some towards those other projects. So. And I think we used the same figure, Doug.
Great goal to try to aspire to, if we can get there, we have left over to put back to the mental health issues. You guys still on board here? Do you want to take this next one by itself? High Peaks Hospice support for increased costs? Yes, right. Okay. So Ray is gonna recuse on this one. Does anybody want to make a motion regarding High Peaks Hospice?
Oh. I'll make a motion, then I have a comment, but I would make a motion, we fund them fully.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Go ahead, Rachel.
Thank you, Chairwoman. After reading this application in depth and looking at the effect from COVID, I believe this is exactly what ARPA monies were given for, and I wish we had the full amount to give out, and this to me speaks exactly what we should be doing here. I would hope for support.
Anything else? I think this is, let's call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, and 1 abstention or recusal.
Yes.
That passes.
8-1.
8-1,
Okay,
and it was for 158,000.
yes, I'm sorry, I didn't
That
say that.
leaves us
Amanda, you got
with-
that? 158,000. Okay,
For
World Awareness Children's Museum requested 64,000. And there's some comments there you guys can see. One was refer them to Octax. I thought you'd appreciate that, Dennis.
Yeah.
Awareness.
So we start.
Should I skip that one for now?
this was to bring in additional programs and if I recall it correctly, right? I would make a referral over to Octax. I think I put that in my application notes.
I will note, one of my notes, I don't think it got into here, but was to myself that they requested 35,000 and lost revenue as a result of the pandemic.
World Children, right?
So I was kind of thinking maybe we could award that 35,000.
I would support that.
Can I have a motion to that effect? Shall I make that motion, 35,000 for lost revenue? Okay. And a second from Supervisor Sieber. Any discussion on that for World Awareness Children's Museum? Call the question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain, recuse, that carries. You got that, Craig?
That was
35,000.
35,000. Okay, next one is the North Warren Emergency Squad. They're asking for 200,000 for an ambulance. Should I skip that one?
The town doesn't buy them their ambulances?
No, not yet. Not yet.
It's ranked fairly low.
I'm sure they would say anything would be appreciated on it, though. I know that Horicon and Chester both contributed money from our funds for them. So, and they're nowhere near the 300,000 they need.
I would suggest 75,000,
Can we make that a motion, Dennis?
please.
Do I have a second, Wayne? Okay, so the motion on the floor is for 75,000. Wayne,
With a caveat that it's expensed before,
okay,
you know,
expense before the end of 2024
correct,
is our deadline to
Yes.
spend the money.
correct.
Okay. Yes, Rachel.
The other day, we had discussion on OPTEX that they weren't sure if we could spend OPTEX money to buy a marine patrol boat to keep our waterways safe during tourism seasons and year round. Are we allowed, and we don't have an attorney here to answer this, but to use money to buy an ambulance? And if we're reducing it to 75, does that even, I don't know what an ambulance costs, but are we even permitted to buy vehicles with ARPA dollars?
You know, they're the ones that are buying it, but it's,
They still have to meet the,
that's right. We do have those from Bay Ridge. Every emergency service has an application in here or something.
Right, and my question was the same on all of them in my notes.
Yeah, yeah. I do think because it provides capacity for health emergency response.
Wayne and then Doug.
Capital expenditures can reach up to $1 million per category.
Okay. There was also something about $50,000 and under. Okay, anyway, Doug,
And this serves just strictly Warren County residents. This isn't crossing county lines because that was a concern before.
Be delayed maybe, but
North Warren is Chester, Horicon.
Winchester and Horicon. We do mutual aid for Scream Lake and Minerva and anybody else that's ailing, but the majority of the 600, not nearly 700 runs are within Warren County. You know,
Yeah, but I thought
Now-
from a technical standpoint, that's what Beth had mentioned earlier about, the Chromebooks for the county residents and so forth. I think we get into a slippery slope a little bit when we start crossing counties.
right, but we're also picking up people that are injured that are not residents of the county too. I don't know quite how to handle that.
Well, that would be a personal choice, but I mean, funding is a different thing. It's a little more technical. And that's why if we had an attorney here, which obviously having 4 county attorneys isn't enough, maybe they could answer that.
Frank,
Right.
Yeah, this is an ambulance, not a laptop Chromebook. This is, somebody's hurt, somebody needs help. Or somebody's sick.
I'm just worried about the legality of it. That's all.
I hear you. Yep, Ray.
It seems to me that, emergency squads, fire departments, if they have medical directors, they come from different hospitals, so there's Glens Falls Hospital doctors that are medical directors for ambulances in Washington County. And if there's an accident on the Northway, we're not going to ask what county they're from. We're going to take care of them.
Yeah.
And we're going to pick them up and deliver them.
Yeah, this is about that.
And the disaster region wide, we want our EMS teams to be able to work together to respond to it. So.
Doug,
And I agree with that. This is about the legality of it, of using Warren County ARPA funds that are used to benefit the other counties. I have no problem with it personally. I'm just saying from a legality standpoint, I'm concerned that all of a sudden we do this and then we get the rug pulled out and say, oh, no, you guys can't do that. So that's what I'm concerned about. That's all.
I would say we can refer that to the county attorney to be sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if you feel that we need to vote, you have to vote no on it today.
That's right.
We can do that.
This is North Warren, the independent organization, North Warren Emergency Squad certificate of need encompasses the towns of Horicon and Chester.
Any,
I'm just
yes,
thinking legality.
Rachel,
I'm trying to pull up their application on our site, but my notes in here said they were also asking for money for gas increase. It wasn't all about, did they have multiple applications in that I'm getting confused on? You're telling me it's for an ambulance and I'm seeing requests in here for increase due to gas prices during COVID, which certainly we can relate to. So I don't think all the requests from all the emergency responders were similar.
No, they weren't.
Okay.
I can't remember if this one had gas though. I think this one was just for the ambulance.
'Cause I did put a note in here that, you know, while I can understand the COVID connection, but it's also about supporting public health. One was
Yeah.
support public health response and the other is address negative economic impacts, which is what it says here. The negative economic impacts versus the support public health category. I wish our attorney was here to answer a little more about what we can and can't spend, but I don't think it's all about an ambulance based on my scoring. But it's fine. I can abstain and you can call the
Yeah.
vote.
All right, I'll call the vote.
We can
Yep.
call vote. As I'm reading it here, they attribute increased prices for their overall budget to help to spur them to ask for help.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I'll call the vote. I'll try voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
75,000.
Yes. Let me try again. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
I'm abstaining.
That carries.
More.
Okay, we're getting there. High Peaks Hospice for hospice education. They requested 206,000. You need to recuse. Okay. And yeah, 206,880. Some comments. Some of the comments talk about reducing the funding.
What
request.
is hospice education?
I did score these applications and I can't remember exactly what they said they wanted to do with the money.
With High Peaks Hospice,
To educate.
Yeah.
let me pull that up here.
It says, you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead if you have it.
Despite hospice employees being essential workers who provided critical healthcare services during the pandemic, our agency is experiencing a ripple effect causing financial hardship. Data shows many more terminally ill patients now only receive hospice services for less than 1 week. This is straight on High Peaks Hospice financially as the first 5 days of service costs on our agency significantly more than we get reimbursed. Education is a grand scale key. And it goes on to talk about the types of education initiatives that would take place through in-person education, mailing, social media, radio, advertisements, et cetera, et cetera. Studies have shown that patients, they're just high satisfaction with the end of life care.
I moved that to full price.
Okay. I have a motion for the full amount requested. Do I have a second? Anybody? Okay, try again, Dennis.
Yeah.
No, move on. We got one more.
I partially, I
How about 100,000? 150,000? Yes,
make a
Rachel.
motion for
feel like I'm in
100 based on the scoring that I see here at 57% priority and 70 average score. $106,880. Should still provide the proportion of the education we're looking to do.
I agree to that.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second for 103.
106,880.
106,880. Okay, 106,880, not half, 106,880. Okay, okay. Not that great with math. All right. Discussion on that? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries.
One
With
more.
one recusal. Hey,
Chairwoman,
yes,
it's just, I hear our supervisor from Lake George say one more, but I'm concerned that we do have people here that came to speak on behalf of their applications. We didn't have privilege of the floor in the beginning, and once we get through one more, perhaps we could.
we do have a couple of other items. Sorry, Dennis. No,
And what?
a couple of other items to take care of.
Okay.
Okay, but one more application to score for today, and I think we did a great job.
Help the people that are here.
We will ask for comments. Privilege of the
Did
floor.
approve that?
I haven't forgotten. We're not there yet. Adirondack Theater Festival requested 25,000 for their film festival.
You know, you guys keep throwing octacs out there. I would think they go to octacs for that.
You want that one to go to Octex?
That's what my notes said.
It's entertainment.
I'll make a
I
referral that we send it to OCTAX with a full request for funding.
I'll second that.
thank you. Discussion to go to Octex for the full 25,000.
And then we'll turn it down.
You better not, Dennis. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, recuse, abstentions, that passes.
So what's
Okay.
the balance?
So what's our balance, Craig, please?
You're right there.
And I'll do privilege of the floor next.
Like they don't score basketball.
If you would like to speak, please go up to the podium.
$3,712,345.
Can't be that much.
What
Is that the balance?
That's the balance we have left to spend.
Oh,
balance left? 3 million, please say it one more time.
$3,712,345.
so how much do we give away today?
800,000.
Oh, well, let me go.
808,000.
Well, Craig,
$808,553.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chairwoman,
yes,
it's just, I don't know who's here today, but if they have applications that are pending, they've spent 2 hours listening to us go through these. I would just respectfully request that if we're going to hear from them, could we also talk about scoring those additional applications? Maybe by the time we come back again.
let's hear from them.
Okay. Thanks.
I'm Trish McKinney. I'm with Greater Adirondack Homemades, and I was one of the lucky ones to get fully funded. So while I did sit through 2 hours of this, I want to thank you very much for your hard work in distributing these funds because it was not easy. I appreciate the privilege to make an application, and I promise you the money will be well used. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for waiting and coming in.
That was done.
We do appreciate the audience.
That was dumb. Don't do that again.
Hi, Christine Norton, 80K Excursions. I too am learning a lot as I go through this, and I appreciate the rigor to which everybody is putting forth these grants and how they should be rated and allocated funding. 80K Excursions is our business. It is a charter business on Lake George that we unfortunately bought in October of 2019, expecting to launch in 2020. The pandemic, again, I don't know where you rated. I don't know if you can share that with me, the priority and or the priority and the two metrics. Are you able to do that?
I can definitely share with you the metrics. Of course, Gina just left, which is problematic, but 80K Excursions. I don't see why we can't share that. I mean, somewhere.
On the all projects, I think.
I think that falls under the small business category.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, all of this should be public information.
Yeah.
I don't know why I want to be.
We do have you under assistance to small business.
Which we put aside, what, $1 million, or said we'd try to.
We had originally set aside $1 million, yeah. I don't know if that's where we're gonna end up, but
Where'd you find her?
she's on
five.
page 5.
Under address negative economic impacts.
It looks like your total request is 175,000. If you were not to get full funding, what would you be really looking for? What's some priority things?
So some priority things right now are, so let me just give you a little bit of background. So we bought the business in October 2019, expecting to launch in May of 2020, which couldn't have been worse timing. Then on top of that, we literally couldn't get anybody to help us. So while we are not a boat rental business, we are not, we did not partake or receive any of the great increases in business, if you will, because we simply couldn't get anybody to actually work on our boat to make it New York State eligible, to make it pass all of the criteria for a public vessel, et cetera. We have basically lost in revenues. Forgive me, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but it's close to 200. Given what you have in front of you and what's been discussed today, clearly 175 is not, I wouldn't be asking for that given now that I have a broader perspective on what's been, you know, discussed. However, this year, we are still operating at a loss. We incurred losses, operating expenses in 2020, 2021. This year, we're operating at a loss. We are fully legal this year. We have approximately $30,000 in capital improvements that need to be made for safety reasons. That anywhere between $30,000 and $50,000 would be hugely helpful. It wouldn't help us with any past losses, but it would definitely help us to go forward in a safer environment for not only our workers, but for our passengers. We are a charter vessel. We originally were going to do single individual tickets, but again, with COVID, we changed our entire business case. Now we do groups of 12 to 25 private charters on Lake George. Another good thing about our private charters is we have, you know, we take people out, so we don't have, you know, tourists out there, you know, driving the lake, either drinking and or not knowing what they're doing. So we are providing some positive impact there for the community. In addition, we give away charters to Glens Falls Hospital, Double H Ranch, as you know, for either silent auctions or just for them, you know, so they're charitable contributions, if you will. And the other thing that we're doing is we are giving back to the community, those guys that were hit the hardest with COVID, thanking them, if you will, for their the hard work that they've put in the last 2 years by giving them, whether it's the hospitality business, the hospitals, the emergency services, we're giving them appreciation charters at the end of each year. This year, we've just started the program. It's the referral program, or excuse me, the charitable donation program. We are still building. Again, we're just getting our legs underneath us because we literally were not approved for business until August, the middle of August last year. Hopefully, again, I realize 175 is not. Sure, please.
What do you have for a vessel?
We have a 40-foot houseboat on Lake George.
Okay,
Uh,
where are you working out of?
we have a dock outside of on the backside of the Sagamore Green Island, but we operate out of Brody's Lakeside. We have a public vessel license through Brody's.
Out of where?
Brody's Lakeside, John Brody,
Yes,
John and Susan.
okay.
How many employees do you have now?
Sweat equity. I am reserving, I'm basically balancing a consulting practice with being crew. My husband happens to be the captain. We are a women-owned business. There's myself and my partner, but my husband happens to be, we're all basically volunteering our hours because we have no money. We're just trying to cover costs this year.
Rachel?
Thank you, Chairwoman. First of all, Ms. Moore, thank you for taking the time to sit through the last 2 hours and for your feedback on the process. In reading this application, what I found was that there were two different, and I put this in my comments as well, there were two different options that were presented to us. And I would ask that the committee consider the lesser option, recognizing her comments here today. But I also want to point out that if there's an environmental education program that is provided through the charter, that there she broke down based on funding, how many more additional visitors and community members they could serve. And especially because there was no application of any type of SBA or, you know, PPP loans within this. And it was, again, our survey said, to the extent that you can help small businesses, help them. And we certainly recognize that early on in our process, which is why we said, let's put aside $1 million for small businesses. So recognizing funding it in its entirety might be difficult, given the requests that have come in. Option 2 was spelled out in her application. And if there's support for that, I'd like to see us do something today to help small businesses, because
What's her
we never got to that.
What's her option 2, Rachel?
Option 2 said 150 in ARPA funding.
150 or 15?
150. And the request was 175. Or perhaps we look at even less than option 2 and say 125.
Again, when I was putting this together, to be fair, I followed the application and it asked about how much revenues were lost and, you know, what we were looking to do to go forward. So with that, I literally, again, I'm CPA too, so I'm a little bit of an analysis girl. So I have all of the information to support that. But again, given what you've all talked about today, I understand the greater good, if you will. Again, those 150 and 175 are real numbers, but we would appreciate anything that the committee could help us with.
I mean, she did say 30,000.
Well, I hope we all go back and review these applications and the hard work that goes into them and the supporting documentation, which is what I looked up.
Sorry, to be clear, the 30,000 is part of the 175, 30,000 is our capital improvements, safety. capital
Right.
improvements.
And I think what we have to focus on is the COVID loss,
Right.
Yes.
which is a lot. I know she's saying over 200,000. I know.
So in the spirit of,
I would support 75,000.
oh, would you compromise at 100,000 since it?
Yeah, that's what I said.
I took that as a yes. If I know this motion, 100,000 is that what we heard? In Dennis's motion for 100.
I have a motion on the floor. Discussion. Frank,
I was thinking 15.
any further discussion? Beth?
So the project didn't rank in the priorities. Can we get through the priorities first, knowing that we have that million left over and that the people who have taken time to come in and talk to us could get, we have more information about them, but I feel uncomfortable jumping off the priorities and jumping around.
Any further discussion? If unless Dennis is willing to withdraw his motion, I think we are going to have to call it. And just to be clear, it's at 100,000.
100,000.
Okay.
Ray's got,
Oh, sorry, Ray. Sorry.
we only have one small business, right?
Yeah.
On the priority list, so
Right.
at some point we would have to dig into them anyway. But I understand what you're saying.
We should get that. Yeah.
Mhm. Call the question.
I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
I'm opposed. So that doesn't carry, right? 5. Okay,
6.
6-3.
May I ask a question since the?
Yes, you may.
is Here, is there an appetite, I guess, then if you reduce it more for some type of assistance, but to Ray's point, we as a committee said, we want to help small businesses. Our survey said we want to help small businesses. I'm shocked to see the priority of our committee just have one small business to try to help. So to Ray's point, we are going to have to look at the other ones, and they're not all here, nor did we, everyone knew, the meeting and when it was taking place, and we continue to advertise and talk about it, but we really went out to the community saying, we gave money to the Dome, and we did this huge public information push to everyone and for small businesses to say, please come, let us help. This is what this money's for. But yeah, we're gonna sit here today and kick cans. So I don't know. I mean, can we compromise?
I want to say that my vote is not to tell her no. My vote is about the fact that we have 21 applications for assistance to small businesses, and I would like to give them all something. I would. And I don't want to jump out of line. I agree with Beth. So I hope you don't take that in that direction. Yeah.
So you're telling me she should come back when we get to the small.
She doesn't need to come back. No, we didn't ask anyone to present. Dennis, you already talked about that. We can't have 72 different
That's not my point.
presentations.
My point is that our application is still good.
My only
That's your
concern.
question. Yeah.
Yes.
Can I still speak? All right,
Let me, go ahead,
sorry.
Ms. Norton, go ahead.
I'm really not, I need to learn about this. So my question is, my concern is frankly, based on the earlier discussions, with the prior, the 12.5 got whittled to 8, got whittled to 4, and now the non-for-profit was 3 point something and change. My concern is once you get down to those lower level businesses, that there won't be any funding left. That's my concern.
So of our other categories, do you guys want to take assistance to small businesses next?
Yeah.
At our next meeting?
You can do that.
Can I just
Any
say
other?
something?
Ray?
Want to jump back to Dennis' question, and because we voted down that amount, it doesn't mean that that proposal can't be considered again for a different amount. Correct.
That's my understanding. Correct.
So just to be sure, can I make a motion that we continue to consider the proposal from Adirondack Excursions at the next meeting?
Yes.
I would say.
Yep, we can table it to a specific meeting.
Yes.
To the next meeting. Is that the right way, Supervisor Seaver?
I don't,
Aside from that, you disagree with this.
to the organization, I mean, you only have one small business in there. I disagree with the fact that we were asked to score based on unlimited funding on the qualifications, but yet, again, today, where we have small businesses and people that have come forward, I agree with her point that by the time we get to the bottom of this, are putting small businesses last.
Just to clarify,
Have $3 million.
the 3 million, it does include all the categories, not just not for profit.
So we get down there, we got 3 million, we got $1 million left, and we got like dozen projects. Some of them are totally
You
unqualified.
see this whole other list? You're just looking at this list. There's a whole nother list. It's
They didn't make the grade.
all these pages.
15 million, 119. Yeah, they didn't make the grade. We don't have that much money. You guys graded them.
Guys, Beth and then Wayne,
I just want to talk about all of the businesses at the same time together. And I agree with Claudia. I think we should try to give everything we can to all of them. I just would be more comfortable if we took all of them at the same time. And made a concerted effort to parse it out to as many as possible.
Wayne,
Well, my counter thought to that, is that we consider today the 30 and look at the balance later. But if this is needed for safety and people, safety considerations for both the operator and the passengers, I think that's something worth considering, is to consider 30 today, but keep the balance of it open for consideration when we get to that distribution. Just my thought.
Is that a motion?
Well, Ray has the motion on the floor, so
I
I
would-
was gonna ask him if he would
I would
consider.
accept that, absolutely.
okay. Motion for 30,000 today
And,
for Adirondack excursions.
and that we can come back and reconsider it.
We-
again.
As part of the.
And can reconsider the remaining request, okay?
And I like,
And Wayne is seconding, okay. Go ahead, Rachel.
but I also like Beth's idea that the next time we meet, could we
Look at 'em.
prioritize discussing small businesses? Today we did the priority list, but I think talking about small businesses is really critical to our community. And I hope the next meeting we make that a priority item.
I am taking that under advisement and I will promise you we will do that next meeting. Dennis,
You'll do the small businesses at the next meeting?
yeah,
No. You look at your feet, they're all what? They're all on dead bottom of the list. Dead bottom of the priority list. All you went through all the motions to prioritize these, and now you're throwing them in the garbage and pulling out projects that willy-nilly that you want to fund. Are you gonna follow this? You guys spend all the time rating them. Now you're telling me you don't want to do them by their rating?
We do want to do it, but
what, yeah, it's Ray, and then I'll come back to Rachel.
we do want to do it by the rating. I think you need to look at two different parts of it. There's an overall rank. And some of the small businesses scored lower in the overall rank, but then there's category rank. So if you look at the category rank. Adirondack. These small businesses are ranked within their categories, and what we're saying is, let's look at that category next and prioritize them within that category. And we had agreed as a group some months ago that we would at least have, I think the number was $1 million for small businesses.
Right.
So. When you've got,
Where is that?
in all honesty, just to editorialize a little bit. When we went from 12.5 to 8 to 4 million. And we've got initially 80 plus, and then some of them got moved to Rob's group, et cetera, et cetera. So 70 plus organizations to look at. Sometimes the small businesses, and I think I made this in a couple of comments to a couple of the applications. These are also folks that aren't necessarily as skilled as some of the nonprofits in grant writing and making their case. So some of them I scored higher because I felt like, yeah, they got a need and they're showing that there was COVID impact and they're struggling small businesses. And maybe it wasn't the greatest budget and maybe it wasn't the greatest proposal, but I wanted to make sure that they were in there, but I probably didn't score them as high as some of the nonprofits that had much more polished proposals. So I think we should look at category ranks, and definitely small businesses is a priority through the surveys that we did. And definitely early on in our process, we said we wanted to put a chunk of money aside. I'm not gonna be held to the amount I said, but I know there was a chunk of money that we said very early in this process that we would allocate for small business.
You know what, Ray, I agree with you.
Can I bottle that?
You can do whatever you want with it. I agree. It's one of the categories. We can look at it.
We can look at it.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not
Yes.
very.
I have a motion on the floor.
Or
Go ahead. For the 30,000.
Right.
I didn't.
Just want to make a point, and obviously Ray said it really well, Dennis, about the category ranks and looking at those, but also when not everyone scores, the scores aren't as reflective as they could be if we had our vacancies filled on the ARPA committee and if we had all our members score. So things of course look lower when you don't have that ability. I mean, to just get a vote passed, it's much harder because of the quorum requirements for the vacant positions. That is true. So
I'll agree with that point.
All right. Any further discussion? I'm going to call the question.
Please do.
Do we even know what we're voting on? 30,000 to Adirondack excursions with the caveat that we can come back and look at it again, the rest of the request. Minus the 30,000, which we would be granting today.
Right.
One last thing.
Okay,
So I did say that the 30,000 is a component of the 175 or the 150. There was, I had worked with someone on not this committee, but maybe the broader committee, where I had a much more extensive financial analysis supporting exactly what the breakout was. And I wasn't allowed, I couldn't even.
just email it to us.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. Okay, one more motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
So move.
Thank you. I'll second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? That carries.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll send out the date of the next meeting. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Craig, what are we? We're at 3,000,000